Glad to have you all here this morning. We have a special presentation that we wanted to offer all of you today. Your teachers, when they found out about this, they didn't walk about it at all, knowing that the message that you're going to receive today was maybe even far more important than the one lesson that you might miss out of whatever class today, right? So your teachers recognize how valuable this lesson is going to be, this discussion that we're about to have. So I appreciate your teachers, sacrificing that time. We're going to appreciate your attention through this whole presentation. It's going to be kind of a potentially heavy topic, but one that we want to make sure that you hear, receive, and work to understand. Okay? Because we care about you. We want to make sure that we put you in the best position to make good decisions as we can. Okay? At this time, I'm going to bring up Mr. Mike Hurst, who takes a lot of time traveling and spreading this powerful message to young people like yourselves. And we thank him for helping to organize this and being with us here at Hanover today.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to come down here and talk with you today. Of course, I lost my son to a heroin overdose in 2010. Horrible set of circumstances involving that. Today, it's going to be the most important talk of your life for some of you, because it's going to save your life. For others, you're not going to heed the warning, and you're going to be one of the 9 out of 10 that get involved in this that don't make it back. Chris Reisner was going to be here with me today. He couldn't make it. So he made a video, and take it away, Chris.
Thanks, Mike. I can't tell you guys what Mike's meant to me in the past couple of years since we met. He's done everything possible for me, for some of my friends. He's truly changed my life. So thanks a lot, Mike. I'm too tall for your Mike. He might be too short. I was an opiate addict for 8 years of my life. And I don't say opiate addict because it sounds better than saying heroin addict. I say it because I was addicted to prescription opiates for 4 years and to heroin for another 4 years. But a little bit about myself. Probably the first time I ever took an opiate, I was maybe 16, 17 years old in high school, just being passed around the hallway. And I never thought much of it. I was a 4-year starter on varsity basketball at East Jackson High School. I hold the record for every three-point record. I'm second leading scorer in school history. I probably had over 15 to 20 different opportunities to play college basketball at different schools. I originally signed to play basketball with Adrian College, and the summer before I went, I started taking Vicodins pretty heavy. And the coach called from Adrian College and told me that he was taking a different position. So I ended up backing out on Adrian College, which was a huge mistake and led to a lot of things. But so then I played basketball at JCC. I ended up quitting the team about halfway through the season, my freshman year, and dropped out of college. And that's when I really started doing drugs pretty heavy, about the time I was 18 years old. I had experimented with marijuana, cocaine, things like that. I think that's probably about as far as I ever went outside of opiates. But when I discovered opiates, I knew that I felt like I'm home, as sad as that sounds. But I started taking Vicodins, and like everybody, I started taking 2 at a time. And then next thing you know, I was taking 4 at a time, then 6 at a time, all the way up until the point where I eventually met somebody that had oxycodone, and I got addicted to oxycodone. And along the way, you know, I was addicted to Oxycontin, every prescription opiate that you can think of. You know, I had ample opportunity to do other things with my life, but once I had the hook of addiction embedded as deep as possible, there really was no other option. You know, an addiction somewhat is a choice, but once you're addicted, there's no choice anymore. I put heroin in front of everything. It didn't matter. Literally everything. Not only does addiction kill you, it puts you in situations to be killed. The things that you do for money, the places that you have to go to buy drugs. And the last time that I ever used heroin, I also set up my drug dealer because I knew I had to do something different. And, you know, if you think about it, how serious can you be about getting clean if you're not willing to turn in the person that's making a living off your demise? And, you know, it's a scary thing to do when it comes to this stuff. You know, either heroin's going to kill you or, you know, you're going to be scared of a drug dealer retaliating. But we need to put the people in jail or prison that are making a living off killing people. And, you know, like Mike frequently says, I'll steal your quote real quick, to look the other way is to give permission in this, and when it comes to this topic. You know, you wouldn't let a rapist or a murderer live down the street and continually murder and rape people, you know, but yet you see the guy who has 50 cars pull up to his house every day, and you know one of the people that he's selling dope to, you know, but yet you can't pick up a phone and call. That's something that we got to do. You know, like Dr. Phelan said, the most important number is 1, and I truly believe that it is. We can all make a difference, one person at a time. I know I took a drug dealer off the street that made at least $35,000 to $5,000 a day, and he's not selling heroin probably now to at least 25 people. They're not getting their heroin from him anymore. They might get it from somewhere else, you know, and I might be labeled a snitch for the rest of my life, but I'm okay with that. That's completely fine with me. So there's things that we can do as public, and I think that we do have to do them now more than ever because it truly is an epidemic. But I can't say that it ruined my life, but for a long period of time it did ruin my life. It ruined my family's life. And I'm ashamed of a lot of things that I did while I was addicted, but I'm not ashamed of my addiction. My life now is still it's still pretty hard on a day-to-day basis, just because of the fact that I've screwed up my brain chemistry so bad that it's really hard battling the depression, low dopamine levels, and you know, lack of motivation. You know, while your brain heals, it's pretty hard to do a lot of things. But you know, today I can get out and do some things without having to do drugs. You know, I spend a lot more time with my niece. I'm actually clean when I'm with her, but it's still a struggle every day. So. On a daily basis, being a recovering addict or trying to be in recovery as a heroin addict is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. Your brain chemistry and the things that make you happy and give you motivation are just so diminished that the second that you have an urge, you know, the cards are so stacked against you that it's everything in your being to say no. And you know, when you feel that way and you know what's going to make you feel better and you know who's got what's going to make you feel better, and, you know, he'll probably even front it to you. You don't even need the money. You know, it's a lot of times that's why you relapse. You know, and it doesn't fix itself within, you know, a couple weeks or a couple months. It takes, you know, 6 months, a year, or 2 years for you to feel normal again. And, you know, that's what the hardest part is. It's not even, you know, you think quitting would be the hardest part, you know, and that is really, really hard. But for me, I found out, you know, staying quit, for lack of better words, is the hardest part.
My name is Mentink, and Chris was my brother. He was supposed to be here with you today, and he's not, because he died 2 weeks ago today of a drug overdose. Just gonna say in advance, he's much better at this than I am, so I'm sorry for you that he's not here, but you have to suffer through with me. In writing this speech, there were so many things that I wanted to tell you. I wanted to tell you how awful it was to get the call and then not answer the call and then get a text from my dad that my brother was dead and have to pull my girls out of the movie theater. I want to tell you how my 11-year-old collapsed to the floor in tears and cried the whole way home because she lost her uncle. I want to tell you how hard it was to watch my mom rub his head, his back, his lifeless body, and how crushing it was for my dad to tell us how cold he felt when he found him that morning, how we covered him up with a blanket because he was just so cold, how my 2-year-old asks for him every day. We called him Willie, it's a nickname, I don't know, but she called him Uncle Yui. She asked for her Uncle Yui, where he is on a daily basis, and my 11-year-old cries every time we talk about him. And I want you to know how heavy the grief is that comes with this loss. It's just crushingly heavy. But none of that means much to you because you don't know Chris. You didn't know Chris. So while I want you to know those things, there's other things that I think are more important for you to know. And I know what you're all thinking. He's nothing like you. And I get that. I do, because I would have thought the same thing, and so would he. And he said he wished that somebody came out to the schools and told him the things that he went out to the schools and told kids when he was that age, because he had no idea. But I get it. He is. When you think of a heroin addict and you think of an opiate addict, he's nothing like you. And I cannot tell you how wrong you are. He was the you that would have been sitting in this auditorium 11 years ago. You know, you assume that he was some junkie that grew up on the wrong side of town and came from a crappy family life and had nothing going for him and no opportunity, and you cannot be more wrong. You know, like I said, he was the you that would have been sitting here today. He would have been wandering the halls between classes and winning basketball games and dating all of the hottest girls, because girlfriends were always super good looking, I don't know. But he was you. He was popular and he was attractive and he was funny and sweet and thoughtful and caring, and he had potential. He was you. How many of you, show of hands, how many of you are student athletes who play a sport of any kind? He was you. Yeah, I mean, you saw the footage of him playing out here at Hanover. I think that was the last time that I was in this gym, and it was unbelievable. He was such an amazing basketball player. And football and all the other sports as well. And how many of you get good grades and you're on the honor roll, things school-wise are going well for you? He was you. He was the scholar athlete of the week for one of the news stations or something like that. He did all of that. And how many of you have college plans or military plans or some sort of future plans after graduation? He was you. He had so much potential and goals, and that was all there. He was you, the you that are sitting here right now. He was you. Chris and I grew up in the suburbs. We had a nice 2-story house with a pool in the backyard over between East Jackson and Grass Lake school districts over there. We never wanted for anything. We had go-karts and bikes and family vacations, and you know, we had all of that. And we both got cars as soon as, excuse me, I so told you he was better than I. We both got cars as soon as we both turned 16, mine before him. And you know, it was a little old lady car, literally it was my grandmother's car. And Chris, being the favorite, which I always called him the favorite, and my mom's gonna be so mad at me right now because she hates it when I say that. But he was the favorite, and he got a gorgeous 1972 Impala that he spent months working on with my dad, probably years working on with my dad in the garage, and he loved that car. You know, we had everything we ever could have asked for. My parents were super supportive. They were at all of our sporting events or concerts or anything like that. They're still married to this day. You know, we've always had an amazing support system. We're not the kind of people that this happens to. You wouldn't think. But it did, and it does every day to people just like us and just like you, to families just like yours, every single day. And as Chris said, it started with the Vicodin that he was given in the halls of his high school. And from there it led to 2, and then 4, and then 6. And before he went to rehab for the first time, it was 22 Vicodin in one day, just to feel normal. And we had no clue. He had built up his tolerance that high that he was taking 22 Vicodin a day to function normally, and we had no idea that it was that bad. We didn't even know it existed at that point. From Vicodin, he turned to oxycodone and Percocet and Oxycontin and all the other painkillers, opiates that you can think of. And when that wasn't enough, he turned to heroin. And I know when you think about heroin addicts, you think, I have nothing in common with these people. That could never be me. But people don't just wake up one day and decide they're going to take heroin. It doesn't work like that. It starts with that one Vicodin in the hallway. And Chris was so addicted, by the time he was able to quit taking opiates, his brain was so damaged that it stopped producing dopamine. And dopamine is the chemical in your brain that helps you to feel good, feel happy and content. And Chris's brain made a quarter of the amount of dopamine that it was supposed to. There was no normal for him after addiction. He had such bad anxiety and depression that it was often hard for him to get out of bed. He would stay in bed for days, sometimes weeks at a time, because he just couldn't get up and function. And I say that, and it's absolutely true, but I don't want you to think that we didn't have good times. There were times that he would push through, times that we would take family trips up north and camping, and when my girls were around, you know, he'd put on a happy face for them. He did what he could, you know, to have a normal life and find the joy in life. But for him, it was just so hard. And unfortunately, the doctors weren't able to get his anxiety under control fast enough for him. So he went back out on the streets to self-medicate. And this time he found Xanax. And I'm sure everybody has probably heard of Xanax. But Chris didn't take prescription. He did sometimes take prescription Xanax. But when the doctor took him off of that, he took the Xanax that he found on the streets. And Xanax that you get on the street, they're called bars of Xanax. And you probably don't know what those are. I had no clue. But it's just a larger dosage of Xanax, and it comes in what looks like a bar, and you would swallow it like a pill, but it's a ton of Xanax. And these are, the thing that blows my mind is you're supposed to be afraid of heroin, and you're supposed to be afraid of meth, and you're supposed to be afraid of coke. But those things didn't do this. This wasn't what happened. In the end, it was Xanax that he got off the street from some dealer that was laced with God knows what. This wasn't heroin. It started that way. Well, it didn't even start that way. It started with Vicodin, but it led there. But this was the stuff that you're not supposed to be afraid of, the things that we don't know that you're supposed to be afraid of. With anything that you get on the street, especially nowadays, I don't know if you've heard or read any of the articles on social media, but so many things are being laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl is a death sentence. It takes a dosage of fentanyl the size of a grain of salt to kill a grown man. So if you get something off the street and it's laced with fentanyl, you're not coming back from that. There is no tomorrow for you. You have no idea what you're getting into. Anytime you take something that you get off the street, it's a game of Russian roulette, and you don't know, am I just gonna get high, or is my dad gonna find me dead, slumped over in my bed the day before Thanksgiving? There is no safe drug except for the one that the doctor prescribes to you and taken as directed, period. I want to mention one more thing before I pass the mic back over. Chris had struggled all his life with anxiety and depression. When he started taking Vicodin as a teenager, he said he felt like he was home. At 16 years old, he had started self-medicating for a mental illness that we had no idea that he had. If you're feeling that you may have anxiety or depression, if you feel anxious and don't know why, if you feel sad for no reason, tell somebody. Tell your parents, tell a teacher, tell the school counselor, tell someone. There is help out there, and it's much easier to control from the get-go than it is after years of damage to your brain. There's help available, you just have to ask. And look out for each other. If you see a friend that you think may be struggling with depression or anxiety or drug use, tell them. And if they don't listen, then tell someone else, because it gets out of control so fast and there's no going back. My brother was an incredibly strong and courageous person, but once addiction dug its claws into him, he had picked a fight that he couldn't win. He couldn't be here to share his story today, but I wanted for him to have one more audience to reach, and I hope that we've done that together. I hope that your parents never have to stand in front of your casket wondering what more they could have done to save you. I hope that your nieces or nephews don't have to struggle to look forward to a future that you won't be a part of. And I hope that your sibling never gets the title of favorite by default because you were no longer there to hold it. Thank you.